Good evening. Today is June 2nd, 2015. The Planning Board is now in session. What's the pleasure of the board?
Approve the minutes.
Approve the minutes.
Previous meetings.
Second.
Second by John. All in favor? Unanimous. We're going to go right into a public hearing. Karen?
I think
Continue
just
public hearing, application of Milford Plaza
Yeah.
Associates for special permit approval regarding a 10% reduction in required off-street parking at 120 through 128 Medway Street.
Good evening. My name is Ryan Bianchetto from Allen and Major Associates, here on behalf of the applicant, RD Management. Al Rossi is here. First item on the agenda is to focus on the special permit, and then we can get into the site plan review issues after that. So, as discussed at the first hearing, the special permit's for a 10% parking reduction, as we do have greater than 3 total uses per the zoning requirement, the zoning table. And so, because there is a bank, a restaurant, retail businesses, and a gym, and there'll probably be even more than that types of uses in the proposed use. We're here before you for a 10% parking reduction. So we've been before the board, we've discussed the whole site development in detail. Let me know if you have any questions in regards to the special permit. We can address those, and anything else outstanding we can probably focus on for the site plan review portion of the hearing and go from there. So we did submit some updated plans more than a couple weeks ago to address a lot of the concerns of the planning board at the last hearing. Some changes to snow storage, changes to landscaping, some other things, but we can discuss that for the site plan review portion of the hearing. Thank you.
Here's my fundamental problem. I see that you have retail and restaurant. I see those two uses. I see you had fitness, but fitness is leaving, and I only know that because it's right here. So I don't see that as a use anymore. So can you explain to me what other use you have other than the retail and the restaurant? Because I don't see it.
So 2 things. One,
Page
there's
2 of the draft.
so 2 things to address your
Go ahead and answer
question.
me, Larry. Thank you.
There is a ATM that's existing, and that will remain. That's a bank. That
It's not a
is
bank, but.
That is a use, and
Yeah.
they will potentially, they may even end up being a tenant at the rest of the retail development. I would imagine if a bank or an ATM wanted to build on site, they would probably have to come before you as a use.
Yeah, but I'm trying to
I'm
to equate your 10% reduction to actual uses that you have.
Yep.
I struggle greatly with an ATM machine as a use. I'm sorry, but I do.
I can
So,
understand that, and I can
and again,
explain that.
I'm seeing that the tenant's leaving for fitness, so if you could explain to me what your minimum third use is, that would be helpful. That's what I'm trying to establish. Again, you keep saying you don't know, and that's fine. If you don't know, then I can't give you a reduction based on what you're showing me. That's
Sure,
what
I
my
understand
problem
that. I was
is.
about to explain that, if you could just give me a chance. So restaurant, retail, and then there is a gym proposed. That's a proposed gym, not an existing gym. So you're correct, that existing gym is leaving the property. We're looking to put in a different gym into that space. That would give us 3 total uses per the minimum requirement.
You'd mentioned a salon at the initial,
That's true too. There is thank you, Larry. There is a salon that's there now as well, right next to the restaurant, the Bugaboo Creek.
Right.
So there's more than 3 uses, no matter which way you take it. If you take out the ATM.
I'm just trying to understand what you have. So if you're telling me that you know for certain you're having a gym come in, one's exiting, one's coming in.
Correct.
Okay, so you know that for certain, so there's a use. I'm just trying to understand. I see retail.
Yep.
I don't see the bank. We're not gonna touch the bank, and I see restaurant. That, I can visually see those. Those are fine.
Sure.
But and again, what I don't see, I see a bunch of lines. Yeah, right, but it's,
Right.
every time I've asked, you claim that you don't know, which is fine. I think you do know, but I don't need to know, which is fine. I just need to understand that you actually have leases in place to support your 10% reduction. That's what I'm trying to establish.
So I would like to answer that question by going back to the zoning code itself. I don't believe it asks for leases as part of the requirement. It says 3 or more distinguishable purposes.
purposes, correct, but
And so if
when you show a building with lines, and you're not saying what the lines represent, then how am I to conclude that there's actually 3 uses there?
it's on.
So I have to ask the applicant in order to establish uses. So understand, even though it may not be written in black and white the way you just read it, you still have to show established uses or uses that will be there.
That's correct.
Because if not,
On the
how
proposed.
am I to understand after I give you a reduction? How am I not to say, wait a minute, you just used all retail or retail and restaurant and you failed the 3rd use? I'm just trying to be fair to both of us.
Yep, and to be fair, on the proposed plan, the proposed plan outlines.
Let me respond to this. Okay, this really is my court. I'm Al Rossi, Vice President of RD Management, and I think I'm better
Better equipped.
equipped to respond to you. Shopping center has a redevelopment plan, as you can see before you. A lot of the stuff we're proposing is new. To achieve that redevelopment plan, we need the 10% parking reduction. Most of the site is vacant. The former Kmart building is being redeveloped. We have serious interest into various types of uses, some of which could be office-type uses, an insurance place. I'm not saying specifically insurance, a tax place, those type of uses, a salon. There'll be more than just retail there. So we have a restaurant, we have a retail, we have interest in the bank use. So I can assure you that we will have more than 3 uses once we develop this site.
He did explain it better.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
And that's all I was, again,
very fair question, sir.
what you ask for, when you only look at paper that shows lines, potential tenants, you're not answering, you're not getting to the crux of why or supporting the 10% claim. So I just need to understand and make certain that it's justified. That's all I'm attempting to do.
You can see here, these are small store uses, local uses, nothing big, because.
I'm not, you have to understand something. I'm not in commercial
Okay.
real estate at all. I have no idea. I just look at boxes. That's all I'm seeing is boxes.
This shopping center will have more than 3 uses.
And that, again, seems fair and equitable. Wasn't that easy?
I made sure that I didn't list in the draft decision, although you could add it if you want, but I didn't list the gym or fitness center specifically because of possible confusion of the current tenant leaving and a new tenant going in that's still a fitness center. So I didn't even address that in the draft decision for that very reason, just to
Okay.
try and yeah, the bank ATM, it's
That's a
there,
stretch.
but
But we won't go there.
there may actually be a bank branch going in, whether
said,
the
Larry, I'm
ATM
not-
stays or not. So-
Other than the small, I think 15,000 that you, actually, I think it grew. I thought it was smaller than that. But anyhow, that you represented that you thought it was gonna be some sort of a sandwich shop. That's what he had represented at one point. I think there was a small little restaurant.
There's a restaurant, correct, in the.
Tenant D.
Right, so,
Tenant D, yeah.
again, I'm using sandwich shop. Whatever you, again, I am not in your line of business. Sandwich shop, restaurant, call it whatever you want. You represented that. Other than that, I'm just trying to figure out, you know, what the lines get filled with. But, hold on. Yeah, you probably do wanna add, Larry, to F3.
Yep. Should add the fitness center,
It certainly,
'cause that's what they're showing as tenant E on the plan.
yeah, I'd add a fitness center. I think I'd also add, I don't know if you wanna go on the limb and say seasonal business, and again, I say that because in
Well-
case you got a tax company in there that I don't know if they operate year-round or not. Again, these are outside of my realms.
Well, they only need 3 to trigger
We'll
it.
call it,
So if you do,
office, then just caveat with
Office
office.
space?
okay.
Office/professional. That
Okay,
works.
so you have retail, restaurant, salon, fitness center, office,
Slash professional.
and leave the bank ATM because it's sitting there, or,
Take ATM out, but you can put bank. I mean, again, that's too much of a stretch for me
All right.
for ATM, sorry. But yeah, if you want to certainly just scratch ATM and leave bank. Or financial
not gonna be-
institution.
But is our decision based on that? I mean, our decision based on there being at least three. If that changes in the future, I don't expect them to come back because there's a
No.
change of use.
No, it's just.
No, but I
it
think
was
that's
just
why
as
you're
long
adding,
as
you're
it's
adding to the potential uses. so that-
Discernible.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, having 5 retail stores, while from a practical standpoint, you're gonna have shared trips using
Yeah,
the parking lot.
Well, and that's why I'm saying I understand the shared trips, and I just want to make sure that if that's a finding of fact of what we see now, that's fine, but I don't want that to be a finding of, if that fact changes, that would cause them to have to come back, because
Right.
as long as they maintain 3 distinct usage, I have no problem with the 10% reduction.
Right, and I think I tried to address that in the actual conditions, not in the findings.
Right.
Future modifications or amendments of the plan may be approved without amendment to the special permit, however, provided, however, that the number of distinguishable uses is not reduced to less than 3,
Okay.
and that the number of off-street parking spaces remains otherwise compliant. So they can still apply the 10% ratio, but the mix just keeps changing.
Okay.
So if I could go back to F3, then the list of uses would be retail, restaurant, salon, fitness center, office/professional, and bank.
Correct.
Okay. Is everybody, are the rest of you guys in agreement with that? It's your decision as a group.
John?
Yeah, fine.
You're okay?
Sounds like it.
Joe?
I'll make a motion then.
You okay, Pat?
See?
Thank you.
Make a motion to,
Grant the 10% reduction in parking.
motion made
Oh,
by,
excuse me.
Close the public hearing.
close the
first.
public hearing. All in favor? Unanimous. Motion made to grant the 10%,
I think John seconded.
I did.
John
second by John. All in favor? Unanimous.
Great, thank you very much.
Now,
Now you need
That
to
was
vote
the
on.
easy part.
that was the
Vote on
easy
special
part.
permit? Or just closing the hearing?
Closed and voted, yes.
We closed and
Okay.
voted, yeah.
All right. Are you around tomorrow, Lena?
I am.
All right, I'll call you.
Okay.
Come down and sign it.
Okay.
6:30 in the morning, right?
Oh, yeah, right.
I'll make these changes in the morning, have Lena sign it, file it with the clerk, let you know as soon as it's done.
Appreciate it, thank you.
All right.
All right, agenda item number 3. Hey, look who's here.
All right, so item number 2, amended site.
Review.
The review is on 120 to 128 Medway Street, Milford Plaza Associates.
Great, again,
Great.
Ryan being Kiddo for the record, here on behalf of the owner, RD Management. So, at the last public hearing, there was some requests for changes to the plans. We've addressed those changes in the plans we have before you. Submitted those to both the planning board and conservation. Just a quick overview of those changes. We looked at the snow storage plan, specifically to the west. Request to take snow storage away from the west. We did that, updated the plan. We've added that wooden fence along the property line that's been on the plan. So that was addressed. Wooden stockade fence to extend from the existing fence that's there now all the way up to that retaining wall existing. Another item that was changed, we looked at the curb cuts along Beaver Street and at Medway. That was a big topic of concern. With regards to Medway, we'll start with that one. We changed the island that's in the center that's separating that right in, right out traffic. Changed it from painted lines up to concrete to really try to discourage people from taking that left out of the site. We added signage that says no left turn, both on-site and off-site along Medway Road, those coming off the site and onto the property. We have also looked at the curb cut in detail and widened it a hair in one area. We added striping and some right turn lane arrows as well to make it really clear that's discouraged. So that was addressing the Medway Road curb cut. In regards to the Beaver Street curb cuts, sure?
Did you, when you say you raise it, did you raise it like a rumble strip, or did you actually put like a berm, whether it be granite or whatever, that?
Full 6-inch slope curb with a concrete sidewalk. So it's really discouraging people even better than a rumble strip.
Okay.
Right, it's a mountable curve.
Correct, sloped. Yep. Correct. So that was to address the Medway Road. And then on Beaver Street, we looked carefully at each of these driveways. We studied it with our traffic engineer. It was here tonight from World Tech, both on-site and off-site impacts, and looked at addressing some of the vegetation questions at the corner of the property. As was mentioned last time, this roadway starts out narrow, widens in front of the site, and narrows down again. There's existing vegetation at the corner that obscures that sight line, and so what we're looking at is actually a solution to cut those trees down probably before the end of this hearing even closes. That's what we're looking at right now, and so we've talked to the Milford Highway Department, Scott, to get the okay to do that. That's been approved. So tree clearing would occur primarily on site at the corner of the property here, and then a couple remaining trees in the right-of-way that the highway superintendent Scott agrees with need to be cleared for vegetation as well. We also looked at the proposed plantings. That was another question in the same area. We severely reduced the proposed plantings, looked at the sight lines, and as requested, moved those plantings over to the west side of the site by the cemetery.
Right.
The landscape plan was updated as well. So that's the changes before the board tonight to address your concerns.
Okay, I see Bonnie has the letter. You have, good day addressed everything that
No.
you,
Brian and I have talked a couple of times, but we have not resolved the issues related to the drainage at all.
okay,
I do think that the southernmost, the new entrance on the east side is better than what's there now, but I have concerns about it being directly across from the hotel, with traffic coming out of that hotel. Those are my two main concerns. The other one would be that the flow from the two streams on the site that currently cross through the site, there have been reports that they carry sediment and trash, and that we should probably look at some type of retrofits to help prevent that in the future.
okay.
So, okay.
I haven't had the pleasure to have this discussion with you, but I'm aware of the issues and the points in your letter. We are going to retain the services of a company to do CCTV of the lines to address your concerns, and the report will show what it shows. If the lines are good, we will leave them. If the lines are in a deteriorated condition, we will replace them.
Okay.
So it's going to be what it's going to be, and we're prepared to do whatever the report states to address your concern, and it is a valid concern. With regard to water coming from off-site onto our property, I just have an issue why I would be responsible to provide sedimentation for someone that's discharging onto my property, rather than that property owner being responsible to provide a sedimentation trap. We have addressed any sedimentation from within the site to discharge off-site. So I appreciate your concern, but maybe it should be directed to the person or the property owner that's distributing sediment onto our site. I just wanted to point that out to you. If it's something on our site, we will certainly address it, and rightfully so. But if it's coming from off-site, I think in all fairness that property owner should be the party that should address that.
Okay,
Because I don't know what we can do on site. We're using storm scepters and those type of means to address sedimentation on our property, and I don't know what we could do to address sedimentation from on-site runoff
Right.
that have sediment. I just wanted to comment on that.
Yeah, that is correct, and it is kind of a tricky situation. But the you have new structures flowing into the same lines. And what I have heard from your engineer is that the flow coming from other sites is what's causing the problem. And I'm a little suspect of that opinion. The catch basins on the east side of the site don't function properly now. And when we go in with the CCTV, we may find that it's because there's a collapsed pipe or something like that. But the day I was out there, it was a dry day, and the catch basins were full of stagnant water. They don't drain.
Maybe we need to pick a wet day. If any of our structures are deteriorated or in a situation need repair, obviously, we're not going to make this major investment and redevelop the site and have a structure that's collapsing. So we will repair it, and like I said, whatever the camera shows, you will be provided a copy of the tape, and it'll say what it say, and I think that'll be done in the next several days, because I've authorized Allen and Majors to engage a firm to do the TVing of the lines or anything else you'd like to have.
Okay.
And it'll be what it'll be.
So you keep in contact with our town engineer?
Right.
About what's happening and what you're gonna be doing?
And I thought there was a comment that had sumps and catch basins. I don't know if that's something that came from you or somewhere.
Well, our standard throughout town is that all catch basins have deep sumps. So if you replace any of those structures as part of this work, if we determine that they need to be replaced, then we would want deep sumps.
I just caution having sumps and catch basins, because I just read a little pamphlet outside about mosquitoes and mosquito larvae and where they live, and I can inform you that in many other communities we operate in, we were required to remove the sumps because of the West Nile virus. So it's a mindset.
It's actually a requirement in the Mass Stormwater Standards.
It may be, but then you put a sump in and then you may have a mosquito-driven issue. So I'm not an advocate of sumps. We have a storm scepter, but any place if it's your requirement and we have to do something like that, we would meet your requirement. I just caution that, watch what you ask for, because you may be creating another issue. In many communities, they have eliminated sumps. So I just point that out.
All right.
What do you think, Bonnie?
Can't get rid of them. That's not a
Can't
question.
I think if we're replacing any catch basins, they should have deep sumps and heads.
Okay, there you go.
We've got other issues in town that require it, so.
Right. Okay, anyone else? Joe, you have comments?
Yeah, before we can approve the plan, I need to see what that site distance is gonna be with the removal of the trees, and I need to know what that allows for speed on there. When I originally had reviewed the traffic, the use of a sign was exceedingly weak in terms of it being a safety measure, that we're gonna put a sign up saying there's driveway entering, to think that's gonna make it work. So I need to know what that distance is to make sure that that's acceptable.
We have the traffic engineer here from World Tech, perhaps he can illuminate shed some light on that. Yep.
Thank you, Ryan. Good evening. My name is Bob Stathopoulos. I'm the senior traffic engineer with WorldTech and working for the owner. Yes.
Just spell your last name.
Last thing is sure.
We're not going to get it on our own.
Stathopoulos.
Thank you, sir.
Yep. So definitely for the side distance, you're correct. The bend in that roadway is pretty severe. And the previous studies that we've done, it shows that it barely meets the stop and side distance. With cutting down some of the vegetation, I think we're getting close to the intersection side distance. But again, the geometry of that roadway is a little bit tough to even go above that and say we're all set to meet it.
And I'll be totally frank. That's why I need to know the number, because we asked you to look at one entrance, and your comeback of 18 cars in the peak hour being an impact to your site versus the safety concerns that driveway was not going to make it with me. So I don't care if you have 18 cars sitting inside the site, if I have a bad sight distance at that second driveway.
Okay.
So you need to take a long look at that before when that comes back.
And I just would like to remind you that Billy, that driver was there in the past as well.
Do you want to redevelop the site or not? That's the question that we have in front of us today. I understand that, but we understand that this is a change.
No, what we're trying to get at though is that that roadway with that geometry, the way it is designed is the problem. It's not really where the driveway is, because when
You make a mistake once, it's on us. You make a mistake twice, that's a different story. You know, we're back again. It's a bad situation. It's a bad situation that I've, for 40 years, gone in and out of, and it needs to be fixed now if we're gonna come back. That's where we are.
I seem to be getting up here and responding. I appreciate,
You do much better when you stay there. I just want to point that out to you.
I've been doing this for a long time, so
tell.
I appreciate when I need to get involved. Your concern, I hear it, and I've authorized Alan Amaji to do a property survey and to mark the trees. And apparently, we have the approval of your highway superintendent, and we'll take the trees down. And then we won't be speculating.
Yep.
We have no problem taking the trees down. We certainly want to have an improved condition. And hopefully, you can do that, Ryan, as soon as possible, and we can take video, or you could go drive by the site or whatever, and you can look at it, and we'll see what it says.
And about
That-
before,
that's-
I very often said something else. We didn't have the survey beyond, I believe, the end of the lot, so couldn't really calculate the exact number for you. But I think with the removal of the trees, you're meeting the intersection site distance.
I assume it's a
That's fine.
posted speed limit on the road.
I don't believe there is one.
I don't know if there is
It's
one
not
or
posted,
not.
is there a
I'm
town?
not sure. I'm not sure.
Is there a town speed limit? Because a lot of times you could have a town speed limit of 30, they go by at 50 or 60.
Right.
If I can.
Yeah, I would assume that that's probably a 30
Doesn't the
30
registration-
area,
I think
but
it
I
is
would
30.
say that
Unless
if we're
otherwise
just at
posted,
30, we're still in
it's
trouble,
30.
because I believe people probably go a little bit faster than 30.
Yeah, if I can go back to the
Am I right,
traffic
Mr.
impact
Attorney?
and assessment study.
We cannot address law enforcement. What we can address is
No,
addressing.
none of us can regrettably, but here's our problem. I think to Joe's point, is we're trying to make the safe, not only for your customers, but for the motoring public in general. I think that's Joe's.
Let's see where we are when we take the trees down, and then we'll have a more intelligent
Exactly.
discussion.
Right.
We'll know what it's about.
That seems reasonable.
That's fair enough.
My only,
Pat?
Larry had a comment, I believe.
Part of the line of sight issue isn't just the curve in the road, which obviously is the main problem, and then secondarily, the trees, but the geometry of the roadway.
I know that geometry of the roadway. I mean, it goes here, goes there, goes there. I like it like that.
The width of the pavement is approximately 30 feet for that section of Beaver Street as it comes around the corner and past the site. It doesn't widen out until it gets past this second, the new relocated second Beaver Street driveway. So my suggestion would be, in addition to the tree clearing and verifying with the survey, the stopping site distance as well as a line of sight, clear sight triangle, is to physically reconstruct the roadway so that it's a consistent 30 feet wide past that northerly driveway. And then extend that driveway throat out to meet it with some normal radiuses on either side, which would in effect move the stopping line out further, which gives you an even better shot at seeing
Going that
who's
way.
coming at you at 50 miles an hour around the corner.
I think the
That's
issue
tough.
that you have with that, and the reason why that got put in, Larry, is that site distance continues all the way around the corner, so that if you have a person taking the right in and they're slowing down, they're effectively, their sight distance with people coming around the corner is also limited. So I think we put in the deceleration lane to get people out of the main.
Well, but part of the problem with the deceleration lane is you've gone from a 30-foot wide road.
Well, I know what, yeah, I understand what you're saying,
To a
but
50-foot wide road, and now the people that are slowing down are blocking the vision of the people that are trying to exit. So.
yeah, but the problem is that the people coming up behind the people that are slowing down have limited space to do that because they don't see too far. So it's one or the other. I'd like to see what the number comes out when you cut down the trees, because if we're okay there, then I don't think we have as much of an issue. If we're okay with cutting down the trees, and that gets us there.
Can I add that if you do go for a deceleration lane, anybody that's taking a left out of that driveway has to effectively cross over 3 lanes, and that's gonna be a worse situation for somebody exiting and taking a left turn.
Yeah, it's not a full deceleration lane. I'm not going for the full deceleration lane. I'm just looking at
The way
the
it is
pavement
now.
that's out there now
Yeah, but
allows
that-
for somebody to pull over to the right slightly to start their decel without being totally in in the through lane traffic. And the reason was, I'm pretty sure, is that as you come around that corner, if people are trying to take a right turn without a decel lane of any type, you're gonna get people right up their ass on that, otherwise they can't see. Yeah, so I'm not looking at changing it to a full deceleration lane and pushing that stop line back. Where you are now, I'd like to see what the sight distance is.
So we definitely hear the board's concern, we agree, and we'll look into it. And Larry's got a suggestion here too, taking this driveway, moving it down, will bring that sight line
You know
closer
it's gonna happen.
and
They're gonna go
closer
left,
for
they do that
visibility.
down
And
the
so
Well,
road.
if you look at that,
That
you're
as
gonna
well.
need to look at what happens to a car taking a right turn and what the sight distance is for the cars coming up behind them to make sure that that's still adequate. is what I'm
Correct, we'll
saying.
look at that. I just want to make sure that cars deaccelerating aren't blocking that visibility. That was the comment of traffic engineer. We'll look into that, we hear this. We hear this.
I guess in talking about the entrances and exits again too, I guess my other comment to a certain extent, and it may go back to or it may help with one of Vonnie's comments, is coming out of either of the driveways, I'm not sure what the need is for full movements at both of those driveways if we don't direct them internally. If you're gonna be going north on Beaver Street, why you would need to come out of the first driveway, and in fact, I'm based on looking at the traffic numbers and the fact that within a short distance, you've got 3 lanes of traffic on Beaver Street, so that you're coming out at that driveway and you're looking across 3 lanes of traffic in order to take your left. I'm somewhat hesitant of taking a left out of that southern Beaver Street exit. And then I'm not sure who is gonna come out of I mean, yes, it's more convenient, but if you're coming out of the northern exit, why you need to take a right at that exit? There's nothing in between there, so I'm thinking that those driveways could be single turn driveways.
Right, well, we looked at that, and the problem is it all relates to this Medway Road. I mean, that's the problem is we're allowing only right turn in, right turn lane out. And so we need these 2 driveways. They absolutely need to stay in the site plan for traffic to safely exit and for traffic to enter. It needs to split into these 2 entries to take all this traffic that would have come up Medway and put it into the development. And what we maintain is that the geometry of these entrances, where we're locating them, is not perfect, but it is the best location given the circumstances. This one here that's there now is too close, I agree, to that gas station. And so by eliminating that, we're solving an issue, but we still need 2 for the project to move forward. And so,
If you could make the sight distance, I'm not telling you can't have 2. I'm telling you I don't know why you need full access, why you need right and left at the first one and a right and left at the second one.
I can try to answer that one. Your left turn is going to be the toughest move to make out of any driveway. No matter where you are, left turns are usually the tough ones. So the left turn is going to have to wait to find that gap to get in there. So if we're going to have the right turn, a right turner waiting behind the left turning car, either he's going to be locked in there because cars are getting in and out of parking spots, or he's going to have to go to either one or the other driveways that offers the right turn. By allowing both turns to happen there, we're trying to split traffic and make it a little bit easier to get out of that driveway. We don't want to create people waiting and getting frustrated to get it out there. It's not that much the backup, it's the frustration of the people, and they're just gonna try to jump and find the gap whenever they can. And the left turns are the ones we're really trying to address. The right turns, I think, by providing both right turns over there, they'll be the easy ones to get out, and they won't cause too much.
That's what I'm worried about, is your left turn out of that first driveway, based on your traffic analysis, shows that the Beaver Street 109 traffic is consistently through a lot of the day backed up. So you're trying to get a person to take a left turn out of that with 3 lanes of traffic blocking their view on the other thing, and I'm not sure why you want to go there.
Well, hopefully with the retimings that we do, that won't be too much of a problem, and that'll be something.
Still
that
looked
can
like
be solved
it
there.
did not work at a high level of service, if I was reading it correctly in your retiming at that intersection. So I'll take another look at it, but
Okay.
it
If
looked
you're
at.
referring to the 95th percentile, you remember that's just a number that means that once in 100 they can get as bad as that shows. and most of the time we operate efficiently.
Yeah, I know that, but I also know that in your analysis that showed 18-car backup,
Yeah.
once in a great while that could happen, but most times that wouldn't happen internally, so I'm not sure that you can tell me that and then not tell me that you can't work it with one driveway at that location. It's the same thing going back each way, so.
True. I think with the full movements allowed on both driveways, you're making it easier for people to get out of there. You keep it on one side, people will try to figure out another way to recirculate through that driveway, the lot, and make it a little bit tougher for everybody to get out of there.
Yeah, I know.
So just trying to make it a little bit easier.
It makes it better for your site. I'm not sure that it makes it better for the people of the town of Milford, and that's what I'm worried about.
No, we understand that. I think that the problem is, what he's getting at, is if people are frustrated there, they may end up just going back up to Medway and try and take a right at Medway, which are kind of discouraged. So if reconfiguring these driveways into a single lane is causing problems on site, people will get frustrated and go up to Medway and cause a much bigger accident up there. And that's what we're trying to avoid. We're trying to manage this in a pretty balanced approach. We're not looking at this as a single area.
Based on what I saw in the traffic analysis, I'm not convinced that that's happening.
We'll take a look and we can get some
We
more
can,
information.
check that one again, yep.
Drivers balance, patients never balance.
That's right. Especially in this state.
New York's not much better, New Jersey's worse. Connecticut. we
Connect's
won't
the
go
worst
there.
of all of them.
You all set, Pat?
The
Did you
only,
wanna ask him about-
the only problem I still have is that the Medway Road, I'd really like to see that, so it's very, obviously, I know you have to allow for truck exit as well, but I certainly would like to see more of a swing in the island, yes, more pronounced. And again, staying within the right-of-ways, and I obviously know you can't go up to 109 to do it, but I certainly would like to see more definitive direction to the right so that left is just not an option. And unfortunately, it's a horrible intersection there, and it's a free-for-all. And you know, that's just the one that I'm extremely sensitive about. As far as Beaver Street goes, I think Joe's got a valid point. Let's wait and see what what the line of sight actually represents. But it's possible to just relocate the second or the first, depending on how you want to look at it, shifting it down perhaps a little, and perhaps putting the entrances a little closer to one another. Both of them may also resolve what you need relative to the line of sight. It's a tough road with the bend, and like I said, we're trying to make movement in and out of the site. Let's be honest, it behooves all of us to do something in that site, because in present configuration, it's not serving anyone's purpose, not yours, not ours, not anyone. So for the betterment of the community, obviously, I think we certainly like to be on the same page with this. It's just getting the fine line details of making this work within a sensible redevelopmental plan, but more relative to the community and what's best for those of us who happen to live in the area but are not there shopping. That's, we have to be sensitive to the motoring public that has nothing to do with this as well, so.
We understand that.
But if you could, the Medway Road, if you could just make that more pronounced and more of an angle, again, I'll be frank with you, I'd be perfectly fine with having slope granite curbing. I'd be perfectly fine with, vertical, but
Yeah, that'd make more sense.
it would to me, but it's just something for you to consider.
Yeah, I don't think the vertical is a problem. That's not a problem at all. I mean, the problem is the trucks.
That's just the way somebody makes a mistake, gotta have a mountable curb out there.
The only problem I have with someone makes a mistake, a lot of times it's gonna cause an accident right there at that intersection. I'm trying to avoid mistakes that could lend itself. That's why if you could solve it in a greater swing, then I'm fine with that. Again, I'm not gonna go one way or the other what the curbing is. My preference would be vertical, but
There is,
Well, the median would need to be vertical. The radiuses on each side of the driveway, you'd want those sloped.
correct.
Yeah. So we're just talking, the vertical would be just for the median, the directional choker island.
It's a state road, so
it's a town, and that link up to the.
Yeah. It would stop at the property
Stop
line,
at the
but,
property
but the
line.
median
There's
itself, the
roundabout
choker
treatments,
island would be.
For trucks, truck aprons, that is basically sloped curbing, and it doesn't, it's not comfortable for vehicles at all to go on that slope.
No, I understand, but trust
So we
me,
could use something like that, just an
I have
example.
I have plenty of truck drivers.
Yeah.
I don't care what you do. They're gonna mess up whatever you do. So if you made it 400 feet wide, they'd still find a way to blow a tire or go up on the grass like they should. Don't ask me why.
Vertical on the
Just-
side,
We're
or
just saying we
vertical
can
on
look into
the,
I just would like to
Gonna-
see a greater,
slope on the slides.
you know, greater angle that it's definitively pronounced that it's virtually impossible for it to take a left. The trucks are not gonna be my concern, because they're not gonna be the ones taking the left.
So we need to continue, yeah.
We all set, Joe?
You have your, we have
The only other thing I just noticed, and you're gonna need to evaluate it, is, because I don't know what your, I'm not sure if it's in here, the design of the sign,
Yeah.
but your sign is right in your sight distance. So you're gonna need to check that and make sure that that's not in the way when you take a look at this.
it's gonna be taller, it's gonna be taller than the 20 feet.
Yeah, that sign's,
That sign's up in the air.
that sign's way up. They're talking 40, 60.
Yeah, well, they're not getting that, so that's
They're not
besides the
gonna
point.
Even if it's
My point,
compliant, it's 30 feet
greater
high.
than 10 feet. It's not.
Yeah.
Yep,
You'll be looking
design-
under it.
I'm worried about what the design of that is to support that below in terms of where those,
Single pole,
Where the- where
double
the-
pole, that's what he's referring
Just
to.
two, yeah, it's just
Two
pylons,
poles.
two small
Any
pylons.
foundation will be below grade.
I think he's more concerned about what the,
depending on the angle, even a small pylon could have significant,
We're gonna try to.
it's right in the way, so
yeah,
you need to take a look at where it is.
7-foot height to the bottom of the sign. And that provides enough clearance for vehicles to see on
Yeah,
that sign.
yeah, the bottom of the sign's fine. I think you need to also take a look and just make sure that the support itself, when you draw your line back, doesn't go through the support
Sure,
itself.
sure.
Okay.
You may be fine, but I just wanna make sure.
So
See you on the
so I have a
16th?
motion to continue
oh, they have to grant.
Yep, you have a
extension.
grant of continuance till the 16th.
Okay,
Right here.
motion made by Pat, second by John. All in favor? Continue it until June 16th.
Great, thank you very much.
If you put the
Welcome.
sign here,
Thank you.
instead of here, put it here.
Thank you very much.
Just a
Oh,
thought.
oh, I am gonna do this, yeah. Oh, right. I was looking at that. I said, geez, I think that's not here. Okay. All right, we're number 4, continue site plan review, 400 East Main Street, FRE Building Corporation has been continued until the 16th of
Requested a
June.
grant of extension.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yes.
They granted the extension.
Granted the
yep.
extension? Okay.
So it's continued till the
Till the
16th.
To the 16th, correct? Okay.
I have a busy meeting on the 16th.
So that's, okay, number 5. Amended site plan 154 East Main Street, World Gym. Good job, Pat.
Other than that,
So I hope everybody goes down Hamilton Street when they leave.
Let me just say this to you. You don't want to go back out to go around, you want this to go like this, and then exit out that way, is what you really want to happen. So
This is on, this is the way, this is on Main Street.
Right, but you want
I
to
don't
go in
want
the
them here.
wrong way, you want this to go this way to exit back.
Not that, not this way, but,
This folk, look.
also,
Lena, do you want me to
Oh, I'm
read
sorry.
the,
Where are we here?
read the report?
Jim.
Agenda item 5, amended site plan, 154 East Main Street, World Gym. The applicant requests amended site plan approval for a change of use on the subject property to a gym and fitness center. No additions are being proposed to the building, and the applicant is proposing only restriping of the existing paved area. The entire site is paved, with no physical changes shown on the plan. The prior use was as an auto sales facility. Excuse me. Therefore, I recommend approval of the amended site plan, subject to all relevant departmental comments and subject to the following conditions. Number 1, that vertical granite curb be installed along the east curb line of Hamilton Street from East Main Street north, approximately 260 feet, to the northerly one-way drive at the rear of the existing building on the subject property. Number 2, that curbing be installed around the perimeter of the redefined or restriped off-street parking area, so that's internal curbing. Number 3, that all paving be removed and suitable soil and landscaping be installed in all areas between the parking lot curbing and A, the Hamilton Street curbing noted in condition number 1, and B, the back of the East Main Street sidewalk noted in condition number 2. And condition number 4, that spot elevations be taken to confirm the drainage flow. Condition number 5, that the parking layout be adjusted since the site plan as submitted does not meet the minimum dimensional requirements for parking lot drive aisle widths and creates internal traffic conflicts near the main entrance. It should be noted that there are no sidewalks on either side of the entire length of Hamilton Street.
Thank you, and our town engineer's here. Bonnie, you have,
I agree with Larry's comments about landscaping the areas in the East Main Street side of the building and along the Hamilton Street side of the building to discourage cutting through. I also think that the 9 existing parking spaces on the Hamilton Street side should be removed because we're asking for that curb cut to be closed up there, and they won't work as parking spaces.
okay.
I also just looked at the flow of traffic in the lot, and I think that the one-way should be reversed.
Yeah.
Because anybody coming into the front lot, if it's all full, to get to the back lot, they have to exit onto East Main Street and then turn down onto Hamilton Street. So.
Yeah, I know it.
So it should, if we close up those 9 existing parking spaces, we can easily reverse that and have an exit onto Hamilton Street that will push people to make a right-hand turn and keep them off East Main Street as well as they're leaving.
Okay.
And that is the bulk of my comments.
Thank you. Okay. Building commissioner, as the health club, the space changes for private to public with respect to the AAB regulation as such must be handicap accessible. Naturally, there are many specific details with respect of the building and handicap regulations that the tenant will need to consider prior moving forward with this project. That's our building commissioner, John Erickson.
Lena, the first paragraph also includes the question as to whether the modifications are going to trigger
Oh, I missed that, okay.
sprinklering and fire alarm systems that may or may not currently be in place.
Okay.
So that hadn't been confirmed yet when he wrote this.
All right. Do you have a copy of these, Bob? You have all that?
Yeah, but relative to the interior,
Right.
fire suppression system, that's not.
Well, no, but in terms of notifying the potential tenant that may be,
I don't disagree with that, but I'm just.
yeah.
And the water
That's a building
company,
department.
the water company, after reviewing the plans, have submitted that they have no conflict with the issue posed with the existing utility infrastructure. And,
Well, it's no conflict.
very good. Okay, Bob.
Thank you. So the site that we're presenting to you is the former Imperial Chevrolet, and then it was the
Imperial Municipal.
Municipal Partners, yes. So the applicant is here, his name is Mr. Russ Watson, who is the operator of World Gym, which currently is in the plaza that we just talked about, and basically, he has to leave, find another place.
Yeah, they omitted that.
Yeah, I noticed. He basically has till like the 21st of June to be out.
That was kind.
Wow.
So he's looking to try to relocate, and this particular area has been vacant for some time now, and he's not looking to buy it. He's just gonna, lease the building for his use. So, he's really not looking to spend an enormous amount of money to do site work on a piece of property that he doesn't own. As far as the parking spaces, we've shown 120 parking spaces, and basically that's what he feels the minimum that he can get away with. He had asked us to see if we could get 128, and we can't. I know that there's a concern about these 9 spaces here, and they should be eliminated. He's willing to designate them as employee parking only, just so that he can keep them and not run the risk of not having enough parking on the site itself. As far as granite curbing along Hamilton Street, as I say, this is part of the town's right-of-way. It's never been demarcated before as to where Hamilton Street begins and ends, and to ask someone who's just looking to lease a building to put granite curbing to designate that. I think the highway surveyor basically only talked about was some sort of a berm along here, typically maybe an asphalt berm. We would offer that possibly to the concern for people cutting through, we would be willing to put curb stops along on all the parking spaces to kind of limit the ability of people to drive over and drive through them in lieu of major construction of bituminous berms around the entire site. I fully understand Vonnie's comments regarding the angled parking, and in first indication, it seemed like, that's no reason to not do that, except that I started thinking about some of the issues that came about when O'Reilly's was gonna put the auto parts over here, and the amount of traffic that was going to be down Hamilton Street. And what happens is if you put this one way going this way, anybody that's now for these, there are 19, there's 22, there's 31 parking spaces. So for 31 people that might be parked in here that come out onto Hamilton Street, they're all forced into the neighborhood. They're all forced into the neighborhood over here because they can't get back onto East Main Street without having to go down here, drive through all this existing small streets, this neighborhood, try to get back on, maybe come down Fruit Street, or go all the way out to 85 and come back around, as opposed to being able to get back out on East Main Street, which is more of a accessible area. So if it was left the way it is, obviously, if people came in here and couldn't find a place to park, they have the ability to come here, and then pull in and use these spaces, and still be able to leave via East Main Street, as opposed to being forced out Hamilton Street to a totally different direction if they're looking to go, on East Main Street.
Oh, my God.
But as this board said at our meeting with O'Reilly's, we were trying to eliminate traffic onto East Main Street, so effectively you're putting it on there by doing this.
I'm fine with reversing it, Bob.
I mean, we don't have a problem with it either. I just didn't know if, I know there was some discussion, and I couldn't remember which way it was as far as the neighborhood was concerned and people sending more traffic that way.
I think Joe spoke properly, that our preference would have been the utilization of Hamilton, and they didn't agree with us, and the zoning board agreed with them.
Okay, so we have no problem reversing these angled spaces. That's not a problem. Here again, we were looking to be able to go in there and open a business in an area that's vacant without, in an area where it's all pavement. It's been pavement for as long as I can remember, because it's been on the dealerships forever. And just to try to provide some striping, provide some defined parking for people who might use the business without spending a lot of renovation on, renovating the entire lot. And I see what Larry was saying, I'm a little short over here on my 24, but I got like almost 30 over here, so I just gotta make some adjustments to that.
Yeah, I've got an alternative sketch that we can look at too.
Okay.
There's-
So, I mean, and probably one of the other things that we looked at too is, and Larry kind of alluded to it using spot shots. It appears that because of the way Hamilton Street is constructed, where you can't tell where Hamilton Street ends and where this parking lot begins, a lot of the drainage from Hamilton Street flows across this parking lot.
Really?
So I'm concerned that if you put a concrete berm or a granite curbing or even bituminous along here, that you may even cause water to puddle up in here, or you're gonna direct water onto East Main that doesn't go there now. And a lot of it just goes through and just kind of funnels through,
guess it
goes
makes
around to the back, there's a big wetlands back over in here, and eventually flows that way, so.
Bob, where's your green space? Just in the front? You could
The
also
green,
put
the
it-
green
you're gonna put
space
it
is
along
here,
the
here,
East
just
Main
around the
Street.
building, but there's no other green space on the property, it's all paved.
What about East Main Street?
So, well, I mean, obviously, we're proposing the parking line here, so we left an area here which is just we're not showing it as green space, it's
Could it
existing
be
pavement.
green space, Bob? Could you plant grass there?
Yeah, here again, I mean,
Listen,
this
let me
is
just be the
something-
first to tell you, Bob.
Yeah.
I'm very appreciative that you've come up with a different use, because I was fearful that you'd get another used car lot in there, and I am not a huge advocate of them. So I'll be the first one to tell you, I applaud you for what you're doing, and I'm certainly appreciative to the idea for this type of use. To have to reinvent the wheel is gonna be extremely costly, and I prefer to try to work with you the best I can. And you make some compelling arguments as far as Hamilton Street, because I don't know where it ends, begins, whatever. I'm more prone to go with what Scott Christofouli said as far as some sort of a Cape Cod burn, but relative to the drainage and so on and so forth, I don't know how viable it's gonna be, but what I'd like to be able to see is if you could open it up and plant some sort of grass, so that if it creates a drainage problem, at least we have another avenue for it to actually collect and repurpose itself back into the ground, so I mean.
Yeah, here again, I think we're here tonight, we're here probably, assuming that this is gonna get continued, my client has to understand and get a grasp of what he
Sure.
might be able to do at a minimum, so he can go back and look at it and run some numbers and see if this is something that he wants to continue to pursue. Obviously, if you're looking at just doing some sort of landscaping treatment in this area here, along East Main Street.
Listen, I'd love if you ran grass down the Hamilton Street too, because.
Right, well, I mean, if we're just
again,
talking.
I'm
here again,
fine with working with you.
If we're talking grass, that's a lot different than, full-blown landscaped area with shrubs
I don't think
and
Hamilton
trees,
Street's ever had a sidewalk, and I gotta be frank with you, I don't know if it will ever benefit from a sidewalk. But
No.
with that said,
There are no sidewalks on either side.
look, I'm not looking, as I say, I'm not looking to crucify you.
No.
But
I understand.
if you can come up with cost-saving measures that are sensible, as far as when you talk about drainage and so on and so forth, if we're creating an area of grass, and again, I'm not advocating that you're planting oak trees, magnolias, and cherry trees, I'm not asking for that.
Magnolias, huh?
I'm just
So-
saying.
So would we be able to do a planting without a curb and a berm? If we just say
If
this
you
is
can
gonna be the limit of
delineate,
this,
if you
and we
can
just.
delineate where the sidewalk ends, which I think you can on East Main Street.
Well, here you can, yes, here we,
And then
here
you're
we
gonna
go
have to.
back of the sidewalk.
You're obviously gonna have to solve it interior-wise, unless you want cars all over the grass, which is
Yeah.
defeating the purpose. You're gonna have to solve it now with car stops.
Yeah, or something,
And-
or a berm, right, either way, right.
So you're gonna have to do something to solve that problem.
Yep.
Relative to, and I always appreciate applicants that can come in and tell you what their needs are. So as far as the parking goes, if he knows he clearly knows his customers better than we do. If he's telling you he'd prefer 128 and the best we can do is 120, I think we're foolish if we start eliminating parking for him, because we're going to create off-street parking dilemma that he shouldn't have to force himself into. So I'm just mentioning that as well, because the elimination of 9 parking spots right off the bat is telling us he doesn't have enough parking.
But this is a non-conforming site, been a non-conforming site for years. If we're changing the use, we've got to bring it into conformance to some extent. I mean, we can't keep pushing the can down the road.
I think if you go over the board, Joe, in my opinion, you're gonna be forced back into the same use, which I think this use is
That's
better.
up to the owner that's there, but if it's a change, to me, if it's a change of use, I don't want to see cars backing out onto Hamilton Street. So those 9 spaces aren't there, as far as I'm concerned. And we asked O'Reilly to put in a curb on the other side. I don't know why we wouldn't ask someone else coming forward.
Well, he's building a new building. He's building a brand-new building on.
That's not my issue, Bob. The site's being developed. You know, at some point in time.
I think this site's being reused.
Yeah.
At some point in time, it's gotta be redeveloped. Again, that's what I'm saying. We've kicked this down the street so many times. It's a non-conforming site that no one here is even sure how it got to this point, because there's no open space on it at all. It was totally paved.
And I'm trying to create
we've got
open space, that's what I'm
signs,
trying to do.
Well, I'm looking at it saying, if the owner wants to use the site and redevelop it, then the owner needs to step up and do something if he's gonna use it. I don't know that it's this gentleman's responsibility or not, but if he's gonna change the use, it's gotta be brought into some form of conformance. I mean, no open space, no nothing. To me, at some point in time, we gotta say, no, you gotta meet the current regulations.
Well, given the drainage questions, and that's why I suggested at least a few spot elevations to try to figure that out, would some kind of compromise in terms of the curbing material, because I think you need to, because we know you can go out and see the seam on the east side of Hamilton Street. You know where the curb needs to be. Whatever the material is a different question. But the location of it is clearly within the street right-of-way, along the seam and the pavement, the same way that O'Reilly Auto Mart located on the other side of the street. So if there's a way to get the green space there, remove the pavement between the new curb line and the interior curb line for the parking lot, and then have that area landscaped, even if it is just grass, then that would be more absorbent certainly and help with the drainage. If you got rid of the 9 parking spaces, but allowed him to do, because he's not buying the building, allowed him to do an asphalt curb instead of a granite curb, not Cape Cod berm, but do an asphalt curb, then the spot elevations would inform where breaks in that curbing could be placed. That would drain into the site the way it still does now. But at least there would be some way to start addressing some of this stuff, and you'd still end up with green space on the site, like Pat was talking about.
Yeah, I can buy that, but that still eliminates 9 spaces, and the way it's drawn, that first, I mean, I can't go forward with, we've got those 9 spaces. The first space in the angle parking has to back out onto Hamilton Street. That space can't be allowed. So there's 10 spaces at least on that plan so if that doesn't work for the person, then he needs to evaluate that. But I can't go forward saying that those are legal parking spaces.
Again, Joe, I'm not, I appreciate an applicant who knows his needs, but 9 spots, okay.
That's right.
But I still think that replacing the asphalt with grass is a more visually and what's needed relative to some potential drainage issues that could be in and around the Hamilton Street area. I don't think enclosing it all with granite's the way to go. That's why, so I mean.
I could certainly discuss it not being granite, but I believe there has to be something there.
As opposed to just a grass strip.
Yes.
So some sort of demarcation as far, and I just go back to how it's not the town's responsibility to demarcate their public way, as opposed to this particular person's public.
Because they're not proposing to reuse this site or to redevelop this site, so.
I know it.
The owner across the way didn't have a problem with it, Bob.
Well, yeah, because he's owning it. He's buying it, and he's building a building, and he's gonna run it.
Someone owns that one. I'm not saying it's, again, I didn't say it was this gentleman's job to do it, but if this owner wants to use this site and he's gonna change the use of this site somewhere along the way, he's gonna face the same question at some point in time if he's gonna use the site. I can tell you that, as long as I'm sitting on this board at least. I don't know about anyone else, but if it comes back at some point, it's gonna be the same question.
2 weeks gonna be?
I don't disagree with you. I am just concerned that it stays as a used car lot that's going to, I'm not a huge advocate of these used car lots that just, it's a free-for-all. I understand what you're saying, but you know what?
Well,
I understand that, and I don't really want it to be either, but at some point in time,
I don't, okay, so I guess the question is, do you wanna come back to the next meeting and?
Yeah, no,
Give
we'll.
yourself 2 weeks to think about
I
it?
think they should.
Think about
I
it.
think
Let's have everyone
I-
back the
Take
next
this,
meeting.
everything that
I
you
think you
probably
should.
mentioned, and we'll mull it over, and if for some reason the applicant chooses to not pursue it, then I'll let Larry know that we're just gonna
Okay.
withdraw.
Well, again,
But we would like to come back in 2 weeks, yes.
Okay.
And I'll show you that other.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you have a
that's fine,
motion,
yes.
Pat?
I'll make a motion to continue to the 16th.
Motion made by Pat to continue to the 16th, second by John. All in favor?
Second by Joe.
Second by Joe, sorry. All in favor, unanimous.
We just want you to come back, that's all.
I just was coming back anyways.
Thank you so much.
Be here the whole night now, in the plaza.
Are you,
Yeah.
you want me to change that?
You're not here the 16th?
Did you get that?
No, I said, I don't think there's anything wrong with the plan. No, put grass in and that's
The full
fine.
packet, that should have the water.
I think they
in
should
it.
get rid of the 9 parking spaces, though. I really do.
Why?
My only problem is,
Why?
because again, I appreciate applicants who know their needs,
Yeah.
and I understand,
Are these yours too?
I'm just more fearful that, you know what?
Well,
I'm not-
think there's
backing out of
anything
there,
wrong with them.
they're gonna be backing out.
I
You
understand,
watch.
But you know what, we're not- he's
Yeah.
resolving it with.
And maybe you can,
If you
In
tell them
Hamilton
not to,
Street's
they're
like,
gonna do it
it's like
anyway.
a driveway anyhow.
don't care, but he,
It is.
Johnny, I'm with you, but
I just want him to have the information.
I don't need it, but this is, let's go.
All right, moving right along, ZBA variance referral, 3 Julie Circle, Jeffrey Ryder. Dear Madam Chairman, the applicant requests a variance to construct a 10-foot by 16-foot, 160 square feet accessory building on the subject property to be located within the required 20 feet side yard setback. The plan submitted with the application is the septic system as built plan. However, the proposed location of the accessory building is hand-drawn and is not shown to scale. It appears to be virtually on the side of the property line. While there is a provision for half the distance of the required side yard setback for certain accessory buildings, the maximum building area for such a reduction is 120 square feet. Further, there appears to be no hardship in properly locating the accessory building elsewhere in compliance with the zoning requirements. I therefore recommend an unfavorable report and forward it to the zoning board of appeals.
Let me just back up for a second.
Sure.
Is this an existing shed, or?
No,
No, it's proposed.
No.
no, it's a proposed shed
proposed shed.
supposedly. I haven't gone out there, so I don't know, it may already be there, but
I'm
if you
slightly
read his,
confused of why he can't, because he refers to losing his deposit of
Right.
up to $13,605, which I don't know why it's up to either, that was a deposit or it wasn't, but,
No, I think there was a deposit, the full cost is probably 13.6.
then he also references a pad, which
Right.
is, I think,
Which
2
isn't
feet.
shown.
Yeah, so my question is, did he already put this in?
Well, I was just gonna
Or, because
ask-
if not, why couldn't you just relocate the
Move it.
pad?
Yeah,
I'm confused on.
well, he may have a deposit in with a contractor to do it, I don't know. But, yeah, it sounds a little fishy. I haven't had a chance to go up and look. But either way, it could,
It's up off of, up by Maspinock, up in that region of the town.
Yeah, it's off Haven Street.
Yes, thanks, Joe.
It's probably.
I knew,
it's
I
up-
was trying to,
I know
yeah.
where it is. up
I mean,
by
it-
there.
it would be somewhat helpful if it was actually drawn to scale. And while his dimensions are there for the size of the 2 sides of the shed, there's no dimensions shown in terms of offset. And
I'm just
if,
confused on,
just,
I'm wondering if there's a pool out there, Larry.
I don't know
well,
what's
if you
up
look at the aerial photo, that's why I attached the aerial
Yeah,
on
that's
the
what I'm
back.
looking at, there's something out there.
There's a pool or something a little further on, but there's other yard space to put it.
God, there's tons of yard space.
Wow.
well, we don't
So-
know what's wetland, we don't know anything, but I don't know why he specifically picked that one location.
Well, like you say, it may already be there, but,
I assume it's already there.
you know, I just, none of the reasons he lists have anything to do with a zoning hardship, so. Had it been properly scaled and located, and we'd had some idea that he's looked at other places in the yard that didn't work.
Well, he's claiming that the present use is lawn and that the new use is shed, so
Right.
we have to
Well, you'd
believe
hope,
that it's not there yet.
yeah. But either way,
If it wasn't there, would you put it there?
no.
No,
Again, there's always a,
Well, there must be some slope there too, because he's got a grading easement from the yard next to him on his property, so that There must be something going on back there too in that back section.
Yeah.
Can't really tell. But
Well,
not knowing anything, I suggest we send an unfavorable recommendation to the
Absolutely.
zoning board.
I'll second it.
Motion made by Joe to send an unfavorable recommendation to the zoning board, second by John. All in favor? Unanimous. He's got it up already, this guy.
I'm sure.
I'm going up there too. Okay, moving right along.
oh, yeah.
Informational discussion, possible amendment to the sign section of the zoning bylaw.
Gosh, political signs.
Okay, I have a couple of comments before,
You want Larry to run it first?
yeah. Okay, Larry.
Well, I had attached a copy of the current Section 3.9 sign regulations. That's the first one in your packet, and then the last one in the packet, or I mean, the one right after that, which
Yeah.
actually is the last one in the packet, is one of the prior proposals where it was a total overhaul of the section, actually had more than 3 or 4 definitions. It had 2 pages of the definitions, as well as, you know, clearer ways to calculate the area, verify locations, et cetera. It had it actually had 3 charts, one for permitted signs by type, by zoning district. The second one's, you know, the number of signs, dimensions, locations by zoning district. And the third one, back on page 6, is permitted sign characteristics by zoning district. At any rate, the bottom line is, unfortunately, with signs and the legal issues surrounding them, to try to make it as simple as possible to enforce means that it's more complicated in terms of the actual text of the bylaw. As we've seen from past practice, having a simple text of the bylaw leads to a lot of confusion because it's not clear enough what's going on. So that was what we tried back in '03. There was another version a year or 2 later. But at any rate, just for comparison purposes, that's where, you know, those are the extremes, so to speak, in terms of what we looked at in the past. I know the selectmen were interested in taking another look at it. You guys were interested in taking another look at it, so.
Can I just make a quick foolish statement? 3911,
Yes,
I gotta be frank with you, I don't know why that's even in there, because there's plenty of them,
they're all around.
they're all around, and there's no enforcement as far as I can tell.
So the first one was by the Milford Daily News, that was the first one.
I'm just saying, but
Yeah.
there's little enforcement, so I don't mean to be fresh, but
I hear what
it's like
you're
everything
saying.
else, why are we talking about something that has no
It's already
enforcement?
there.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, but.
well,
and I
maybe,
take
maybe
it-
it's,
Well,
it's,
that was the change that we had to after the fact.
I was gonna,
There's existing non-conforming signs. Unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about it.
Right, that's what prompted 3915, changeable copy electronic message panels, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
right, that's
But I
right.
mean, I gotta be frank with you, when you look at 3911, traveling light or animated types.
Yep.
Go up and downtown Milford, and they're in a lot of storefronts, open, and they just keep
Flipping them
flipping
over.
around and making an illumination, and again, so I mean.
Well, does this,
They says it's prohibited, but really, they're not gonna be prohibited, I just, sometimes I
No,
have a hard time.
this is what's in
This is
now.
the current, yeah.
That isn't to say we're not gonna
Number
change
7.
it. That may be one that we really wanna look at as to how we change the wording.
This
But that
this
is what's in the
this-
bylaw now.
this one, number 7.
And when you
That's
bring them
right now.
inside, that's one of the issues I think we have in the bylaw, is if it's inside the building, we don't
That's not ours.
govern it, so that's why they can do those types of signs if they're in the window.
Well,
Maybe that's why you want to
But
change it.
unfortunately, most of them are in the window.
Well,
That's,
if we want to oversee that, then we need to change the bylaw.
It was never clarified in the
Right.
bylaw.
Exactly.
Either one way or the other. The other alternative, other than looking at these 2 extremes, so to speak, in terms of what we've got, and one of the things we proposed back in 2003, would be to stop doing it altogether with zoning and verify through the Attorney General or at least Town Council that we could switch to a general bylaw, and that signs are all, because some towns don't have any zoning regulations for signs, it's all done by general bylaw. And then you can get into the situation of, first of all, there is no such thing as a nonconformity under a general bylaw, and you could more easily get into the amortization of stuff you want to get rid of in terms of establishing a number of years that they could maintain a nonconformity or otherwise violation of the new general bylaw. But at any rate, that might be an avenue that, you know, the planning board could still weigh in terms of helping craft it, because we're the ones that typically do that stuff, but that it wouldn't be zoning.
Yeah.
But I think the problem,
If we were gonna do that, if we wanted to go down that path, I think we need to, and this also goes back to conversations I had with the chairman of the Board of Selectmen, in terms of asking Lena to put this on the agenda, is how far we wanna go, and I indicated to him that, you know, the planning board would certainly be willing to take a look at it. However, we needed to have input and support from the selectmen as to how we go down this path and what we need to look at, because when we did go back in '03, effectively, we got no support at town meeting from town officials.
right,
We tried to craft a bylaw that we thought cleaned up a lot of the
Right.
issues and got nothing on town meeting floor in terms of support. So I made it clear to him that we're not gonna stick our neck out again to the extent that, you know, we need to have backup from the town for us to look at it. And changing that type of bylaw would certainly be something that we would need to have a discussion with them as to whether they wanna be effectively with it being that type of setup, the keeper of
the
that
sign,
issue,
yeah.
so.
Keep the signs.
And one of my other questions, I guess, was, I know the selectman chairman was in favor of this type of complete sign bylaw overhaul, not necessarily how we did it or not, but looking at signs in totality, not just looking at, because this came out of the temporary signs issue that we had at town meeting, is what started this. But he was of the opinion that he felt that we should be looking at the total bylaw. I guess I'd like to ask the Board of Selectmen, if we could, Larry, as to the board, if they're of the opinion that it would be appropriate to look at the total sign bylaw, or they certainly want us to look at the temporary portion of it and the issues that came up at town meeting. But that's obviously a different package to take to town meeting than this thing, and I wanna know that there's gonna be support to do this whole thing, or is there only gonna be support to look at the other one?
yeah.
So-
Well, we can, I'll talk to the town administrator in the morning, and
I just have one other quick question, is the 3921A.
which one are you on? The
Second
current-
page.
Current
Current
sign,
one?
yeah, 3921A. Well, I can understand it.
One sign for each
I
family
think
residing
you're
in
going
premise
down the wrong
indicating
path,
the
and I
owner
think you're
occupied
lending
property
yourself
is,
to
provided there
scrutiny.
should be no exceed, well,
I understand it, I'm just simply saying, I think you're lending yourself to a can of
one
worms.
sign.
Well, that's what's there now.
I understand, and
So you're concerned that that's too much signage in a residential?
I don't think that you need to be so specific in a residential.
Residential area.
As far as say, one sign per family, and it can't be bigger
Can we
than.
use the KISS technique? Keep it simple, stupid.
I understand, I'm just saying.
This stuff is,
But
too many words.
part of the problem is that
Yeah,
this
well,
is,
that-
this
This is
is so
the problem.
simple that it doesn't.
That it
Causes
causes
problems.
problems. Well, I was driving down on Depot Street today, and there's this huge red and white sign for a garage sale tacked onto the telephone pole. I mean, and it was one of these bought signs. And with the weather now, they're all on the ground now, you know. That's the other thing, I think a lot of people are saying, they're just throwing paper signs up and leave them there. I mean, how do you stop them from doing stuff like that? They're not gonna go
You track down
on,
their address, it's on the thing, you send them a fine.
so who's
That's
gonna
the
take
easiest
care
way
of
to
that, though?
rectify
Who's
that.
gonna be the keeper of that?
Well,
You know, Johnny Jones lives on such and such a street, call him up, it gets a $5 fine, or,
The building official enforces.
you
his
know,
own
that's that sort of thing.
All right.
I think the other thing was all the signs that are on the corner of Tank Field. I think that has been a real, I've got number of phone calls of how long it's gonna be there. So that was another part of,
Nobody's
the sign.
responsible for it.
that's the
problem.
who's responsible?
The tank field must have somebody responsible for the tank field.
Right.
Can't they control the signs?
Well, the
Somebody's
problem- the problem-
responsible for
the problem
Fino
we have
Field,
with the
can't
tank-
they control
well,
the signs?
Those the park department can.
Yeah,
Park department, I don't think is really, they don't care, or they haven't put a big effort into doing it, but that's their responsibility. The problem that you have with Tank Field, to a certain extent, is it's the water company, but yet,
Privately owned.
yeah,
Right,
well, it's
right.
privately owned, but they're trying to be, they're trying to be good neighbors to a certain extent. They're not trying to ruffle feathers, but it makes it awful difficult in
Right.
terms of trying to control it also, because, you know, they're, hey,
They haven't come
so
up
that's
to
what
it.
makes, that's
Yeah.
what makes Tank Field a little
Right.
bit more difficult. And there is a way of, you know, in the bylaw, we can't address that because it is controlled by the town, although it's owned by a private firm. But right now, it's not addressed in the bylaw.
No.
Well, right now, it's prohibited. And you saw what happened when it was tried to enforce it.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I think we should all look these over and come back, and,
Well, and I'd like to
I mean-
get, again, I'd like to get the
think you
feeling
need
from
to get
at least
support
the
from
Board
the
of
selectmen.
Selectmen
Okay.
as to what, you know, what their expectations are from us. If it's a full bylaw, that's fine, but then my expectation from them is that they would make themselves available to talk to us as to what they'd like or not, you know, so that we don't get snowballed at town meeting floor if we go forward with this, that it's a, you know, it has the support of all the boards, and as we go forward, if it goes forward, I think for certain sections of it, I think we will probably need to talk to the park department, and maybe the school department too, in terms of
Right.
what they'd like to put into it going forward for town-owned property, because my biggest thing at town meeting, and I made a point of it, is I didn't think the town should be, and effectively, I thought the change to the bylaw put the town in a status that I didn't think was deserving, that they shouldn't be any different than anybody else. And especially without some sort of control, and that would be my feeling going forward too. But that's not to say that I wouldn't at least address some magnitude of allowing the town certain leeway.
so Larry, you wanna take care of that? You wanna check with the selectmen, or?
Yeah, if you can talk to the town administrator and ask him
yeah.
if he can just bring that up with the board at their next meeting, I'd appreciate it.
I think he's watching.
Oh, is he? All right.
I'll make a
Say hi
motion
to
for
Rick.
adjournment.
Motion made for German, second by John. All in
Anybody.
favor? Good night, everyone.
Those are once a month.